With things getting smaller day by day, we have dongles like this Venture Electronic Odo here, and also this FIO KA11 here. And of course, we get to see a lot of these devices like this dongle here, Onyx Alpha. Is there a place for something like this, which is iFi Hip DAC3? Geoff and Oreo. Oh wait, we are talking about audio stuff, right? Not cats. Okay, let me just put them aside. All right. So the first iteration of Hip DAC was released back in 2020. It was hugely popular, especially considering that you can't miss it in that turquoise color. So fast forward in 2024, now we have this Hip DAC 3 here. Okay. After spending quite a bit of time comparing between those two and then looking at the specification, I would say that they are pretty much the same thing, the majority of the same thing, which is Hip DAC version 3 here. Okay, physically, looking at it, it is pretty much similar, except for the color, of course. Now it comes in this lovely looking titanium or gunmetal color. I absolutely love this because I don't like turquoise color. The button, the knobs, everything remain the same, except at the back here. Now it is all in C. Very good. Okay, so we have here for power and this one here for data. At the front here, pretty much the same thing as well. If you are familiar with Hip DAC, I don't have to spend too much time explaining it, which is 4.4 mm balance, 3.5 mm single-ended, and of course we have a function button here for power match, which is essentially a high and low gain in iFi terms of definition. And of course we have this XAVC, which is not a foreign thing, especially if you're familiar with iFi product. And we have additional thing here at the back, which is the IEMs. It is simply an advanced name, for impedance switch. So you can also switch impedance to high and low. Looking into the configuration of this Hip DAC 3, it is, again, the keyword here is identical, almost identical to the original Hip DAC. The power rating remains the same, which is rated at 6.3 VRMS at 400 milliwatt of power at 32 ohm from the 4.4 mm balance, and 280 milliwatt of power from the 3.5 mm single-ended at 3.2 VRMS. So meaning that Hip DAC 1 and 2 pretty much the same amount of power. But the differences, first and foremost, would be the XMOS microprocessor, which is included into this Hip DAC 3 now, which does not seem to be listed for the Hip DAC version 1. Even the battery remains the same, which is 220 mAh of power and capable of running up to 12 hours. But is it? So it is a portable device after all, Hip DAC 3. As you can see here, attached to my phone, I can carry it around easily anywhere. I place it inside my pocket like this, together sandwich like this. You can even strap a rubber band if you want to. This thing runs on its own battery. And for the next 8 hours, I can get this thing connected like this, streaming my Tidal here, without have to worry that it will drain the power of my phone. And of course, you can totally use it as a desktop DAC amp, as you can see here. I already attached it to my PC, which is Windows 11. No special drivers needed. It runs perfectly fine. I just need to maximize the volume and then poof, it runs. No problem at all. And it is, in fact, the kind of performance which is quite comparable to desktop DAC amp, which I have here. Let me just quickly, show you what I have. I have here this Burson Audio Playmate 2, which is exceedingly the most powerful Class A amplifier that I have here. And I also have with me here the one that I use the most, which is JDS Lab Atom 2 DAC and amp. And how much comparable is this Hip DAC compared to those three? I would say that, driving this kind of Hi-Fi Man Sundara here, which is a magnetic planar, not easy to drive. And also this Sennheiser HD600 here, okay, my favorite, 300 ohm. I can just simply say that, after doing a bit of comparison, this Hip DAC 3 admirably was able to drive up to close to 90%, especially compared with this JDS Lab Atom 2. So that is super impressive. So in simplest term, this Hip DAC 3 is able to replace, if you ever need to have something which is a lot more compact, small, For example, in your office, or even let's say something which is, I mentioned earlier, transportable, that you can carry around with you. Now that we know it has power, how about the sound itself? Does it sound good? Let's just do a bit of comparison, because usually when you compare, it is a lot easier to explain. Let's just go back to the iFi Hip DAC version 1. If memory serves me correctly, it was already a good sounding DAC amp, portable DAC amp. But the keyword here is just good. So it was kind of a bit, very well balanced between musical and analytical, kind of a bit warm sounding as well. And if I were to compare it with this Hip DAC version 3 right now, rest assured that, okay, throughout that years of maturity, that maturity is being presented by this Hip DAC3. So what are the maturity elements being offered by this Hip DAC3? First and foremost would be the resolution, the imaging, all has been improved. It has very good rendering of macro and micro detail now, and it reveals a bit more in the uppermost extension and even the lowermost extension. Especially if you love bass, and when you switch on that X bass, okay, you're gonna hear something which I would consider as rich with the bass resolution itself, especially sub bass. If you love sub bass, you want that, okay? And while doing that, it does not sound muddy at all, even when I crank the volume really high. And on top of that, let's just quickly compare it with some other competition in the market, which is very popular, FIO Q15. And this thing is super powerful, even more powerful, offering 1006 milliwatt of power at 32 ohm, as opposed to 400 milliwatt of power at 32 ohm from this Hip DAC. But the key thing is that, let me just put it this way. Running these two headphones here, which are super difficult to drive, I must say that if I were to do a blind test, it's going to be difficult for me to differentiate which one is which. Yes, that's how good it is, this Hip DAC3. Okay, because both of them are operating at such a high level, and without a doubt, definitely I would say that this Q15 can really dance side by side with the desktop setup that I have here. And this Hip DAC3 pretty much just a hair slightly lagging behind, just a hair, okay? And when I say a hair, we are talking about the rule of diminishing return here. When you scale up into the chain of audio, trying to improve every single bit of it, okay, there are improvements, but the improvements are marginal at best. So we are talking about, same level of resolution, same level of detail, same level of, imaging and everything, sound stage pretty much similar, but then the key differences is that, the authority of the sound itself, the solidity of the dynamic transient itself. It does sound a bit denser, okay, more richer on this Q15 upon further, let's say, scrutiny of sound that I did. Despite having lots of power on tap, even from the 3.5mm single-ended, how does it perform with highly sensitive stuff? Something like this FIO FA19 here. This thing is exceedingly resolving and sensitive. It will pick up anything. If there's any anomaly from the source, I will hear it. And with the rating of SNR at just around 109 dB, okay, of SNR, you might say that it doesn't look impressive if I were to compare with some of the competition in the market, which are hovering close to 130 dB of SNR. But in real life tests, using this in high gain mode, which is the power match, okay, I would just simply say I am not hearing any kind of floor noises. So definitely. Be it tiny dongles like this, which I have shown to you earlier, anything from ultra compact to full size dongles, or battery powered DAC amp like this Hip DAC3, it is not my place to judge or to assert how you should use your audio gears, how you should enjoy your audio, because ultimately it depends on your needs, on your requirement, on your preference. For example, you might want to have ultra portability with the less amount of hassle, then you go for ultra compact dongle. But if you want a bit more of flexibility without the need to drain your battery of your phone, then you can definitely go for something like this. The best part is that not only it is portable, transportable, it is also a very good substitute for desktop solution. You can definitely use this Hip DAC3 attached to your PC and enjoy the kind of performance which I have shown to you earlier, close to 90% to what most powerful desktop DAC amp can deliver.